Terrorists have unleashed a wave of suicide attacks across Iraq, killing at least 29 people and wounding dozens. The deadliest attack hit a busy restaurant in the southern province of Dhi Qar, where a bomber blew himself up, killing 14 people. Separately, an attacker set off his explosives-laden car in a commercial area in the oil-rich city of Basra. At least 5 people were killed and 12 more injured. Earlier in the day, a bomber rammed his car into a security checkpoint in Baghdad. That attack left 6 Iraqi forces dead. 4 soldiers also died in a terrorist attack on a paramilitary unit north of Baghdad. Daesh has claimed responsibility for the deadly bombings. The takfiri terrorist group frequently carries out attacks across Iraq, targeting both civilians and security forces. Hazem Salem is a political activist and commentator joining us from Cairo. Hazem Salem, if we take a look at Iraq, we've noticed somewhat of a spike recently. Is this because of these terrorists retreating from Syria and then going into Iraq, perhaps? Or why do you see that being the case?
Well, this could be one of the reasons, and there could be other escalating reasons from within Iraq, because there has been a reshuffle in the government and there has been unrest for some while, and sometimes the terrorists take opportunity when there is a change or when there is a phase of changing politics to strike here and there. Nevertheless, the situation between Iraq and Syria is interconnected, and the situation in the whole region is all interconnected. That's why the attacks by these groups are more or less becoming random and trying to hit hard on civilians as well as the official forces, but the civilians become more of a casualty because they want to make a statement rather than making a political gain or to spread their territory. And making the statement by killing civilians is one of the worst things that we have been seeing in Iraq recently, and this is not an exception from that current development happening in Iraq, that civilians are paying for these radical and terrorist groups hitting the civilians in order just to make a statement that we still exist and we did not give up.
Well, one of the ways this has been is what you just indicated, and these attacks obviously kill lots of people. But this has been going on for quite some time. Of course, now it's the fight against Daesh. But before that, during the elections, when they happened in Iraq, there was outside influences influencing some of these terrorists to make their statement who are related to some of the political parties inside Iraq. So therefore, the ultimate question then would be, there needs to be a political settlement that satisfies Iraqis. Do you see Iraq headed in that direction?
Well, Iraq is trying very much to head to that direction, and Muqtada al-Sadr has been helping that in order to make a change that can meet the demands of the people, that can make the government more open. And still, destabilizing Iraq is a strategy for everybody outside Iraq, whether the Gulf, whether the United States, and destabilizing Iraq has been mainly by these groups. And that's why Iraqis have to find a way out of this. And in order to secure Iraq, there has to be a whole package of political settlement which is derived by the Iraqis and initiated by the Iraqis, and on top of which is to bring Iraq once again to a national unity and to bring Iraq into more of an Iraqi identity that groups all Iraqis. And this is a challenge in itself, and the terrorist groups have been utilizing the fragility of Iraq and the vulnerability of Iraq in order to make their statement, and making their statement in Iraq has been happening for a very long time, and the international community is sort of happy with the destabilization of Iraq so far.
And finally, quickly, one of the countries that has been pretty much a direct influence on this matter has been Saudi Arabia. That is not a new secret. It's been going on for quite some time. But what is interesting is the fact that destabilization of Iraq through these terrorist acts also is somewhat involving U.S. forces that are inside Iraq fighting the very same terrorists. How do you describe that relationship between the United States, Saudi Arabia, vis-a-vis Saudi Arabia, and the destabilization that it creates inside Iraq?
Well, the fact is Saudi Arabia is trying to hit Iran by attacking Iraq, by destabilizing Iraq. That's very much obvious to everybody. And the Americans never had a clear exit strategy from Iraq after invading it. So the situation is that the United States still wants to play in Iraq in a very negative way, and Saudi Arabia wants Iraq to be stabilized for certain reasons. And that's why it's up to the Iraqis and to the allies of Iraq. All the peace-loving nations should be helping the Iraqis, because Iraq has been left in the open for a very long time, and Iraq has been under American occupation for a very long time, and the American occupation has been continuing with the American infiltration into the Iraqi politics and breaking the will of the Iraqis to come back together. And this is also helped by Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries. So the stability of Iraq will stabilize the whole Middle East, and this is a must for those who wish to see people living in a better life rather than the suffering that they had for more than 2 decades.
Political activist and commentator Hazem Salem, thank you.